I hope you had a great lunch, and please don't fall asleep now. Got a great session over here this evening. With all the crazy swings that's happening in the crypto markets right now, I'm really excited to be in this session right now. My name is Ravi Gondovia. I'll be the MC for this event. I do structural engineering at Gulfstream Aerospace, a little bit different side of technology. Let's start with our moderator, which will be done by Justin Ponders, and he's the lead data science instructor at the General Assembly over in Atlanta, Georgia. We will have this panel going on for about 45 minutes, and we'll take 15 minutes question and answers. So please refrain from asking questions till then. A little bit about the housekeeping, just make sure the phones are on silent and no active crypto trading, I guess. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, I'm really excited. So just to get an idea of kind of who all's out there, raise your hand if you think you know what a cryptocurrency is. What about blockchain? Okay. Raise your hand if you currently own Bitcoin. Keep it up if you also own Ethereum. If you have run a distributed application on the Ethereum network. Okay. So, good. So, we could go a lot of different directions today, and I am really excited to be here with this panel. And, you know, coming from somewhat of an instructional background, there's three things that I hope that we all walk away with at the end of this. I think first is, what exactly is cryptocurrencies and what are blockchains? And I think that ties into why it's so interesting and why I think they're catalysts for innovation and maybe spurring some new thoughts, some new paradigms in tech. So that's actually the second objective, is why this is such an important topic right now. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with where you can go, hopefully to learn more about blockchain and cryptocurrencies and some of the ideas that we talked about today. So first, I'd like to ask the panel to introduce themselves, sort of what do you do in the crypto blockchain space, and how did you get into crypto and blockchain? So, Tawana?
Hello? There we go. My name is Savannah Evans. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in technology for almost 20 years. I like to call myself left brain, right brain person. I'm a developer as well as a designer. And my evolution has come from hardware to software engineering, development, design, data analysis. I'm just like a geek, like a all-around geek. This is my, Guapcoin is my current startup. This is my second startup. I also am a founder of a platform called Safe to Meet. I'm a patent holder there for that technology. And I moved into the crypto space, I guess you could say about maybe a year and a half ago. To me, it's all technology. So, like people when they talk about cryptocurrency and you've been in technology, it's like it's technology. Especially as a developer, this is and now I've kind of evolved with Guapcoin as being kind of like a social movement that we have. So we have a gang of social causes that we're trying to implement using cryptocurrency, blockchain, etc.
Hi, I'm Lior Weinstein. I've been involved with Bitcoin since 2011, June 2011. I am a technology entrepreneur, built and sold a few companies in the past few years, and now, besides being a very avid investor in blockchain technology, not just blockchain, cryptographic technologies, I'm also an entrepreneur in the space.
I also have been involved in technology for probably 20 years now. Did a lot of data center design, data expediency for banks in the late 90s, early 2000s. I was involved in the cypherpunk movement during the 90s. A lot of my friends have gone on to be some of the bigger names in the industry here now. I consider myself a semi-crypto anarchist, and I think that a lot of the things that we're doing are for social and public good. I really, prior to this technology breakthrough, had really a lot of concerns for us as a society, and I think that this level of trust is going to provide a lot of solutions that we all need, but we need to get to the understanding of what this stuff is. So that's why we're here.
Which I think takes us straight into our next question, because I think probably everyone's aware of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies on top of the blockchain, but we've already heard several mentions of social implications around maybe cryptocurrencies or the underlying blockchain. So why don't we start? How would you explain blockchain to, say, this group of people? For the people who aren't that familiar with blockchain, how would you sort of explain?
The underlying technology is a distributed ledger technology. It's an immutable, uncensorable, distributed ledger. That's going to allow us to provide systems where we can develop data that will be immutable and uncensorable. If we create systems that allow voting or land records or understanding transparency of monetary distribution, those are all things that we can benefit from as society, where we can't have other people that are in power or in charge come back and redefine those to change them. So again, this is a very secure underlying distributed ledger technology.
Same question? It's a distributed ledger technology. No, I'm just kidding. So that's a question that comes up all the time, right? And I think that one of the stuff that I want to do when I talk about these things is help people kind of get that coin drop moment to help them ideate and think right about these things. So kind of a couple of general pointers, because what he said is exactly true, and that is the underlying technology. One thing, blockchain is a database. Some people ask me, so what can you do with blockchain? Then I tell them, well, what can you do with the database? Right? Let's start there, right? And the answer is generally pretty much anything. And then the question becomes, what can you do with an immutable database? So what happens if you can actually trust the database that nobody can affect once the record has been created?
So just define terminologies. What do you mean by immutable database?
Immutable database is a database that cannot be changed. Okay, it cannot be changed. So once a record is created, you can't change it. Means you look at a record and you know that's accurate. You look at a historical record, you know that's accurate. In the context of your house title, if any of you ever refinanced your home and had to pay title insurance for yourself, you know how ridiculous that is, right? So title is actually a great example. So you know that if your record is in a blockchain kind of a database that you own a house, you own that house. Nobody can refute it. Nobody can change it. No government can come in and change it. No neighborhood, no office clerk can change it. It's just there. So that's what immutable is. So one, blockchain is, first of all, a database. The second is it has this quality of being immutable. And because it's immutable using cryptographic technologies and techniques, it means you can trust it. And what do you do with that trust? That's what we're exploring right now as entrepreneurs.
Yes, actually, I was going to delve into that. On the social side, really, trust was the major thing that I was going to talk about. Right now, currently, a lot of our systems, we have intermediaries to establish trust between two people. And if you're talking about one to make transactions or to deal with other people, even on a global level, there has to be some way that you can establish trust. And if you've ever dealt with international business, or you've dealt with offshore anything, buying something somewhere else, the major factor becomes trust. And then the second major factor, of course, becomes privacy. So these are two big issues that are barriers that stand between you being able to do business on a global scale. So blockchain technology definitely brings us closer together socially, and enables more methods by which we can interact without having to have an intermediary between us dictating the rules of our interaction. So, and with so much global unrest going on and social unrest, that's a big factor for even the common person, even if they don't know what blockchain technology is.
So to summarize, it sounds like blockchain is first and foremost sort of a store of data It's immutable, meaning it's unchangeable. So once it's there, it's fixed. But also, you're talking about kind of a distributed or a trustless environment. And so I think in terms of Bitcoin, that data would be transactions. But we'll kind of go in reverse order. I know that you're working, I'll let you to explain what you're currently doing with Guap coin and how that fits on top of the blockchain and uses some of those ideas for your social good.
Well, currently, what we're trying to do with Guap coin is strengthen the community of Black-owned businesses. There are a large amount of people who actually open businesses within our community, but there are also a large amount of businesses that don't make it. Of course, they have to compete with larger companies, et cetera, but they also have to build up the trust within the community that we could support these businesses and that they will, in fact, support us well socially. So what we're doing is we're bridging merchants within our community with consumers within our community and establishing loyalty and a relationship so that we could support both sides. Within the community, a big factor with us is gentrification and legacy building. So this is a very, very big, I guess you could say, talking point now within our community, building legacies and creating businesses and intergenerational wealth. So we took this opportunity to create this currency to be able to address that and to kind of bring that together. Not only that, Guap is building a data platform so that we can analyze the data of the spending within our community because we feel that our community, we do spend a lot of money. We are social trendsetters, et cetera, but we don't benefit from the dollars that we're spending and the dollars don't stay within our community. So we're trying to build a data platform that will analyze that data and come up with strategies, et cetera, so that we can use that to our benefit and leverage to that benefit.
Great, thank you. So I think to stay in that vein, so Lior and Tim, apart from what a lot of us think of as currency-based blockchains, what do you think are some other industries or businesses that might be disruptive or ripe for innovation given the kind of emergence of blockchain technology?
Wow, there are a lot. I mean, finances is definitely a big one, right? If we're talking about financial inclusion on a global scale, right? So Americans generally, I mean, all of us are the 1% globally. But if you think about all the billions of humans in the world and their access to capital systems of any kind, just the ability to produce value, exchange value for whatever, doesn't really matter, just the ability to say, I did something and I want to trade that something with you, they don't have a good system right now because they don't have a Bank of America branch. They don't have an ADP to process their payroll. So their ability to get a wallet, create value, get some kind of a currency, doesn't really matter what kind, and then trade it with other people and benefit their lives is pretty amazing. And the fact that you don't need this huge infrastructure and licenses and regulation to make that happen, local communities, even 10 hut strong, can do that for themselves, which is pretty much wow. In terms of industries outside of finances, I mean, when you think about all the stuff that you end up paying just because somebody has to validate it and somebody has to vouch for it, then you kind of realize it touches everything in your lives. I mean, from the plane ticket that you buy, the movie tickets, the food, the labels on stuff, medical, supply chain. So any single industry you think that some money somewhere down the line is going to somewhere to just look and make sure that event is real and is quote unquote kosher from that perspective. It should have been treated as a real thing that people can trust. Then you realize what can happen. Now, some of the industries that are probably going to have the most immediate effect is definitely anything related to logistics and supply chain, because right now that's just a black hole for many of us. So if you look at the ingredients, of anything, down to stamping a specific banana that you buy and what line and what field it was or what tree it was grown in. So supply chain is going to be a big one for sure. And politically, I think the biggest opportunity is voting. We have a lot of discussions in this country about the ability to vote, right, in different communities, and what does that mean? And just the fact, I mean, it's very archaic, right, that we have to go to a place and touch a screen, which is so if you had your own keys and your own identity on your phone that only you have access to and nobody can dispute that, right? It's immutable, it's yours, and you can just vote on anything. So imagine not just how many people would vote because they can, because accessibility is created, but also on how many topics. So right now, everybody goes and everybody, right, 30-some% goes and votes for the president. But if voting was a very easy thing and you actually got a notification every time there was a local, if somebody wants to build a building on your local road and you have a chance to vote on it just because it's on your phone right now, so our ability to participate in any kind of democracy is pretty amazing. So I think that's a very low-hanging fruit, especially because that kind of exists already. We don't need to develop new technology. We just need governments to adopt it.
Cool. Yeah, I'll reiterate that. One thing I just wanted to touch on while we're here is that a lot of times we refer to these things now as crypto assets, not just cryptocurrencies. Currencies is just one of the types of assets. Currencies, securities, utilities, and collectibles are pretty much the four agreed type of assets right now. On this subject, social impact is amazing. Yeah, there's 6.5 billion people out of the 8 billion people in the world that are really underbanked, and about 3 billion are unbanked. That's a lot of human capital that we're just leaving on the table. So trying to create systems of inclusion for them is important. We can bring them along with us, and a lot of times those people are going to surpass us. We're working on a project right now in the Philippines and in Sudan where we have real use cases, thousands of people that are using these digital currencies. You look at sub-Saharan Africa; they don't have phone lines in the ground. They have mobile phones. They're trading with cell phone minutes now. There are programs that are converting that into crypto. These people are going to surpass us if we don't actually pay attention to it. And this is a great thing. That's really cool. A lot of times when people argue on Facebook about cryptocurrencies, I laugh, and I know cryptocurrencies aren't for them. They don't get it. This isn't a thing to invest in. This is a technology to work with. And it's a technology that ideally can do so much more for humanity. On the social impact side, though, it can also do a lot of harm for our humanity if we don't understand the implications for what it is. There are governments like that of the People's Republic of China that might look to use these type of things, these immutable and censorable records, to enslave and make sure that people can't rise out of their current social systems. Venezuela as well. I've got friends who are on exile from Venezuela for acting in this field. So, now more than ever, we have to keep our eyes open about this. There's going to be a lot of truth and trust that these systems can provide. But for those that are in power, if they try to use it to impede us from creating these systems and only use it to lock the things that they need down, just be wary about those systems. We need to be educating ourselves, understanding these things, not looking at them like it is a stock market, because it is not. The current applications that are out there now, 99% of them will be garbage. It's neat to experiment, but most of everyone wasn't on the internet in the 600, 1200 baud days. Things were rough. This is not a system for everyone right now, because it's not easy. But over the next couple of years, it's going to get easy and it's going to get fun. And we'll have a lot more to use, and hopefully the systems that we're going to go and actually create. I've been in conversations with one of the founders of Singularity University as a partner of mine, and I'm working on a project with him for the government of the Bahamas and for the city of Miami. Some people are taking this role, and we're going to create these systems of governance and change that we will be able to implement and work on. Groups of friends of mine, there was actually an article yesterday for a project that we're working on in Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, we've had a lot of great work with the government there. They're very willing to allow us to come in and trying to create a smart city. Ideally, this is going to lead to change in voting, in the way that their records are kept, that we can use, and then we can move to other locations, other areas, to bring them onto a smarter system. Other systems we'd like to explore are systems like universal basic income. And this is hopefully going to be something that will allow us to do that.
Great. How's everybody doing? A lot of big ideas, a lot of maybe new concepts. So I want to try to summarize what I've heard from you so far. That really behind the blockchain is the idea of creating and sharing, I think, either value or data or information in a way that is distributed, meaning, correct me if this is wrong, but it's kind of shared amongst the population, not controlled kind of from a top-down system, and that has this level of immutability so that engenders trust, because you can verify that this record of value, either within communities or globally, it hasn't been changed, hasn't been altered or hacked, so to speak. Is that a pretty good synopsis so far?
You're doing great.
All right. And you just spoke to education, so I hope that's one of the things we accomplish here, because there is sort of a lot of high-level concepts, and I want to follow on next to something that you just mentioned, Tim, about how right now, I think because it's early days, this is not necessarily easy technology to use. And so I'm interested to hear your opinions in when is this going to become easy to use? And I'd like to hear from all of you, because I think you all represent kind of different motivations, perspectives on this.
One word I'd like to add to your last list is radical transparency, or 2 words. That's the idea, I think, of the system, radical transparency, and what that can do for humanity. When's it going to become easy? I don't know. I mean, maybe in over the next couple of years. We're on our Gen 3 systems now. Bitcoin, Ledger. It's great. It does what it does. You're trying to 2012, 2013. You started to try to add on the idea of smart contracts, other ways to tag some of the components in Bitcoin. That didn't really work well. There was a lot of infighting. So you saw projects like Mastercoin evolve and emerge, and Ethereum. And Ethereum really kind of brought to the forefront semi-Turing complete programmatic blockchains, which are what are important now. But the Ethereum blockchain is it's amazing for what it has brought to the education and understanding. But it was built in 2014, and it's going to be evolving. But it's tough to change the engine of a speeding car as it's rolling down the highway. Now these new levels, this new evolution, we're on this blockchain 3.0 wave. I work hand in hand with a chain called EOS. Do a lot of work with Block One, and really looking forward to that being delivered. I think we've identified some things that'll help recoverable. People have a lot of problems with ID right now. If you have to be, it's public key, private key infrastructure. A lot of people have come into a lot of issues by losing private keys, and it's a tough thing, and it's not very usable. My mom's not going to be able to use a private key. It's just not going to work. So these newer systems ideally have better identification systems and recovery systems for people to be able to use. And then it's kind of like, Ethereum's the EVM, the virtual machine. It's great, but it's like building an Altair 8080. You had to maybe put an operating system on it, and that's all you had. To make it do anything, you have to be very in-depth and very technical. So even for the developers, it was a very hard thing to do now on the Ethereum blockchain, and somewhat. Also very rudimentary. There's not much that can be done with the Solidity language, some stuff, but it's not very deep. So now we're getting to systems that have better rails and have better functionality already built into them. So then a new wave of developers, and we need developers. If you have developer friends, tell them to be developing on blockchains, tell them to be looking at Solidity, tell them to be looking at EOS and some of the other systems that are coming out, because the smart contracts and understanding that language, it's not too complex, but it can do some amazing things, and we need more people to be working on it.
So I think the question becomes about ubiquity and usability, right? And because it's interesting, I mean, when you look at what databases and computers did to the world, it's pretty amazing, right? And nobody, or the common person, when MySQL was launched, wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, I need to be a part of this. But the impact of that database on your lives is pretty much immeasurable. So I think there's a question of usability in terms of a currency and financial system that's more like the common app, right? What people understand and would want to use and can use, and that's coming. I mean, there are companies that like kiosks that are developing pretty cool stuff that are going to make it easy for developers to build applications where you're not going to need the private key with the 256-bit, whatever it is. You're just going to need something like username and password, or Face ID for that matter, right? Or Touch ID, whatever it is. So you're going to be able to see kind of technologies chaining together to make it easy for consumers to access different kind of services on top of the blockchain. In terms of ubiquity, I mean, you already have stuff. So there's a company, for example, called Colloquially, which operates right now in 4 cities in Tel Aviv, Haifa, London, and Liverpool, where hundreds of local businesses are using this as a super local currency, so like a local pound if you're in London. And as far as you know, you go into a business and they tell you, hey, download this app and pay us with a local pound. And you open the app, you're like, okay, 50 pounds, you're going to get 55 pounds of local pounds. And then you start using it, and for you as a consumer, you almost treat it like a gift card. And that's your understanding of it. It's not a gift card, right? It's a proper cryptocurrency for all intents and purposes. And it incentivizes the businesses. It's cheaper for them. They don't have to pay the 3% to Visa and MasterCard. They don't have to worry about disputes. They don't have to worry about settlements. They don't have to worry about cash flow. It's pretty amazing for them. So Ubiquity already kind of exists in different applications. And again, for us consumers, I mean, we're not, like, I don't know the specific systems that control, you know, FDA compliance when a drug comes in, right? So in terms of how developers are going to go out to the world with the current applications, business applications that are just immense, and just start to replace different aspects with blockchain, we're not going to know about it. We might know about it because stuff might become cheaper, okay? Because they're going to cost less, because they're going to be less cost of compliance and cost of all those third-party validating stuff. So I think that's already here and that's coming. In terms of financials, you know, I don't think it'll take more than a couple of years for the average person to be able to use it without even knowing the words private keys and public keys. But in terms of impact, I think that's right now.
Thank you. Tomorrow, I guess I'm especially curious to hear your answer because you're developing this sort of community-based coin.
Yeah.
And so if you're working with people in your community who are not as tech savvy, what pain points are you feeling right now around that, and what are you thinking around that?
Well, from day one, we had to become educators. Like every day, we talk to people. When we have a conversation, just a simple conversation about the coin, it becomes an entire education about cryptocurrency in general, which is great. It's, you know, really cool, but we get to see on the ground level, you know, what is needed to get people moving along in that process and feeling more comfortable with it. I think people really want to do it, but this is really one thing that people really want to get educated about. They just don't want to jump into it, and there's a lot of people that don't want to take that risk. They want to learn it and they want to know more about it. So that's a huge thing that's going to, of course, simplify it and make it more widely adapted. And that's a problem here in America. It's not such a problem outside of America in other countries, but here we're very behind. And, you know, and it's really crazy because we're supposed to be a progressive country, but when it comes to these technologies, we're not exactly progressive. If you want to learn more about the cutting edge, about what's going on in cryptocurrency, you have to leave this country. You have to go and you have to deal with people on an international basis to really get the cutting edge of what's going on. Here, we're dealing with a lot of legalities. And even though you may be dealing with blockchain and you're not dealing with cryptocurrency, everybody's minds is programmed to cryptocurrency. So you could be speaking about blockchain and they're thinking about cryptocurrency. So they start talking about, you know, laws and this, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And they're getting deep into the finance, even though you're dealing with the technology aspect of it. So there's a lot of battles we have to fight here. I know, at least on my behalf, I have to fight a lot of battles to even get to the point where, okay, we're comfortable enough to just have this discussion and know that this is not going anywhere. You know, I have to really relay that to people that although, you know, disregard everything you're seeing on the news right now about this crash and this going up, it's not going anywhere. It's much bigger than what you see.
Great, thank you. So I think there's a couple of directions that we could go now. Probably a lot of directions we could go now. But I think one trend that I'm hearing from everyone is that there's not one blockchain, there's not one application on top of blockchain. And I think maybe sometimes there's a perception of, well, who's going to be the winner? What's going to be the killer app? It's going to be Bitcoin or Ethereum or something. But it sounds like it's going to be much more of a new, I would say, ecosystem or a collection of networks or protocols. Is that, anybody have a thought around that?
Right. This is the new internet. So if you can imagine how many websites, how many social networks, how many this, how many that, this is cryptocurrency, blockchain is the new internet. So there are going to be many different facets to keep up with.
I think this is not the DVD versus Laserdisc kind of situation. It's not about a specific application. It's about the technologies, right? So if the DVD Laserdisc, people will say, well, I just want to watch video at home, right? And I want it to be high quality. Which format is going to win? But this is not like we're looking at a single type of application and then we're looking for the best way to do that. I mean, even regular currencies, we have, what, 190 something like that right now without cryptos. So currencies definitely are going to have a variability because they're going to have different uses. So I don't think there'll ever be one winner, and because there isn't one now. In terms of technology, then it's just a function of, okay, what ideas do we have as a society? And do those ideas require blockchain? I think one of the biggest issues we're seeing right now with projects is people are just slapping the word blockchain on it because it's easy access to funds. And right now they're right with with what's going on. Unfortunately, they are actually managing to get funds that they shouldn't deserve. And you see these companies that would never be able to raise money from serious investors, just slap blockchain on it, go to some innocent person, and they give them the money. In some cases, that's great. Some cases that means people with good ideas, kind of like when Kickstarter came to be, right? People with good ideas that couldn't convince traditional investors to give them money, and now they can go out to the world and get money for any kind of project, which is amazing. But in some cases, it's naivete, right? They think this idea needs blockchain, but it really doesn't. Blockchain might actually make it slower or not good because it doesn't need all those properties we're talking about of immutability, because you need to be able to reverse stuff, right? So yeah, it's a new set of technologies, and then it's going to be unlimited, just like the internet is unlimited. It's not like when you talk about, if we take the video example again, you're like, so what is going to be the most popular video application? Is it going to be sports or news? It's going to be whatever, right? Whatever people need, but it's the same underlying technology that allows it.
So to answer the original one, yeah, millions. There's as many as we're ever going to think of. This is a security layer protocol that can go anywhere from OSI layer 2 hardware up through the application layer 7. So when we were building the internet, TCP/IP, we had cryptography since the 70s. We didn't have technology that was going to be able to encapsulate it fast enough. So we really couldn't build any security layers on the unsecure transport layers of the internet, or we might have already. One of the reasons why the United States in particular is a little bit behind, the US in the early 90s actually labeled cryptography or some forms of cryptography as a munition. It was a weapon of war, so many of us could not continue our studies of that. So you look at other countries that were able to continue those studies. Some of them did have a bit of a jump on us and where we were at. But yeah, this is a couple of the terms that I like and I like to talk about, especially at locations like this. There's the term blockchain is eating the world, because it will. Everything, it's a big black hole of everything that we place trust on, and that's going to continue to eat everything that we have. It's a technology. When you just look at currency, money is a technology. It is a form of communication. The paper dollar was a wild thought in the 1300s. When it became a thing, when the Italian merchants decided to trade in paper. That was insane, right? And so people didn't think it was going to last, people didn't think it was going to be there, but it's a technology. And so this technology, now that it exists, the Pandora's box is open, it will continue to exist, everything will fall into it. The other saying that I like to talk about is, there was an old saying on the internet, when the internet came out, is that on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. Right? And that was a fun saying, and I mean, it's true, you could hide behind your persona. The updated saying, which I think is fun when we come to the day of machines that we're getting into, is that on the blockchain, nobody knows you're a fridge. because you're going to be able to have these machine-to-machine communications now, and you're going to be able to have these secure, encrypted trusts between peers, and whether those peers will be man, machine, or dogs will be up to those that are verifying and securing those transportations.
Great, thank you. So I think for the next couple of minutes before we go into question and answer period, let's say that someone out here is interested in learning more about either blockchain or cryptocurrencies. Where would be a good place for them to start, because this is so new? Where would you advise people to go to start learning more for themselves?
The common statement is if it's been written in a book, it's already too late. It's not necessarily always true. There are a couple good books out now that I think are interesting. The Mastering Bitcoin is a fantastic book. It's a technical book. Andreas Antonopoulos is a brilliant man. It's a really, really good book. So go read it. Be smart about this stuff. There's a book by Chris Bernski called Crypto Assets that's really good. It really kind of lays out a lot of the different things that are there now, where things are headed. The Business Blockchain by William Mugayer. He's a very brilliant businessman. He was very, very influential in Vitalik's role and how Vitalik kind of got led and moved along. Finding the right sources on the internet is important. Making sure that the people that you're listening to can be trusted is important. But yeah, there's going to be plenty of books. Be careful. Some of the stuff on YouTube is bad. You look at some of the things on YouTube, in particular. Some of it's good. Andreas, amazing channel. Andreas Antonopoulos, awesome channel. Like he's so brilliant and smart and a good guy. But you look at what happened with the BitConnect guys. When you have any time to technology like this, you're gonna have scams, and the scams are gonna be out there, and people are gonna try to take advantage of people. So you just gotta be smart. There's an amazing saying. A lot of us, the SEC is protecting a lot of us. It's also hindering a lot of us. Right? But we have to do your own research. You have to be smart about this stuff. Be only willing to participate with that which you can lose, especially if you don't understand what it is or who it is that you're getting involved with. So be wary. If as far as the Ponzi's go, as far as the BitConnects go, if they're offering guarantees of what these things can come and be, run away. If you can use your credit card to buy directly from an ICO, get out of there. Those people are likely doing things that aren't that might not be right. So Reddit is a good place to go check out. Some of the subreddits are good. Steemit, which is actually a blockchain explorer itself, and is one that's probably the most used blockchain for the average person. Is a great location for some information, but do your own research.
And I think that can be intimidating about cryptocurrencies and blockchains, because there's going to be so many options and there are so many scams out there. So apart from education, just self-education, is there good advice for someone who's interested? What would you say? Would you say to stay away? Because it can be scary. So I think, is there a practical level, say, well, start maybe in this area and gradually warm up into this kind of technology?
So it depends on really what you're trying to do. First of all, if you're not a professional investor, I would generally stay away from these kind of investments. The entire category as a whole is definitely up there in terms of aggressiveness. So if you're not a professional investor, if you don't know what you're doing, if you just want to play around, then treat it like entertainment, right? Like you go to Vegas to a hotel and you say, okay, I'm going to spend $200 tonight, and I'm going to have some fun, I'm going to lose it all, and it's going to be fine. Because you'll be like, okay, I'm going to spend here, 3 hours, 2 hours, whatever it is, have some drinks, have some memories, and that's the extent of it. So if you're taking that approach and which I recommend, by the way, I think one of the more important things for people to try is to just get in. But don't get into ICOs. Don't do that. But download Coinbase here in the U.S. Probably the easiest way for a regular person to start getting in. Put in $10, buy one Ethereum or Bitcoin Cash or whatever it is, and send it to a friend, and just see for yourself what it's like to transfer money in seconds, pay almost no fees, and understand that would have been the same experience if you just moved $1 billion to another country. So I think once you do that, and you kind of just you emotionally understand the effects of just the currency aspect of blockchain, things are going to start to be a lot clearer in terms of how to sort through information and how to kind of recognize the bullshit. That's pretty difficult. I mean, even for experienced people, we look at some projects, and the fact that somebody's very smart doesn't mean they're a good business person, and the fact that somebody has a ton of business background, like former investment banker or whatever it is, doesn't mean he can build a technology company, specifically heavy kind of technology, right? It's not, some SaaS that you just open an account and subscribe to or something. So it's pretty difficult. That's why I say if you're not a professional investor, then don't get in. I would say though, if you do understand something about an industry, and then you see an ICO or a project in that industry, take a look at it, because you'll be able to spot, inefficiency. You're able to spot if somebody's lying or if there's true potential to it, and it'll help you wrap your head around the potential when you're thinking about the impact for your daily lives. YouTube, definitely the best resource by far. I would stay away from any channel that talks to you about the investing aspect of it. Again, if you're not a professional investor, the reality is you're not going to know how to tell if they're bullshitting you or not, and that's a big problem with real money. Okay, in the $20, $50, then it's the entertainment category, right? It's not investment. So stay away from the channels that talk to you about investing. So if it's a video that tells you about how you can buy 50,000 coins of this thing and it's going to be the next Bitcoin, just don't even hit play. But if you see a video that explains the technology, and usually those videos are either very short, like 5 minutes, short form, or very long. So when you actually hear a developer talking, that's usually like a 1 to 3 hour video. If you can sustain that, and if you understand that, I highly recommend you do, because then you also see the attitude of the people that are actually in the industry creating the stuff. And you'll see the difference between somebody that's intelligent and productive in cryptographic technologies, between somebody that's just a business guy that's trying to slap on, blockchain on it, or some YouTuber that's trying to pump a coin and says this is going to be the next big thing. Like I was just working on, somebody told me about a project that's, I'm not going to share too many details. I don't want to talk down on them. But anyway, it was about like trading autonomous transportation time. So this vision in the future where you have your blocks of autonomous transportation, like drones or your self-driving car, whatever it is. I'm like, shit, that's like 15, 20 years away from just practical applications, let alone the trading aspect of it, right? So, and these people are doing it now, trying to raise money. I'm like, why? It's just so far off, right? So it's very easy to get enamored in it. It's very easy when the news are just hyping every single thing. I was just posting a tweet that somebody put, CNBC showing how to buy Ripple when Ripple was at 257, and now they're showing how to sell Ripple when Ripple is at 0.97. And the tweet was like, buy the tip, sell the dip, which is the opposite, by the way, of what you're supposed to do. But definitely stay away of mainstream media. So if you see an article on mainstream media right now, and generally probably you should stay away from mainstream media, but if you see an article in the context of crypto anything, and it's not a crypto person that you've heard about, right, through YouTube, then just disregard it. It's 99% fallacy.
I was going to say, when you first asked, of course, YouTube, because my children, that's what they do for everything. My children are heavy into technology, and they just peruse YouTube to find out how to do something, whatever that may be. So YouTube is definitely a really, really great source for learning about cryptocurrency. But right now, because of what was spawned by the hype of last year, there are a lot of local groups popping up. You have meetups now, you have local coding groups, you have local seminars, local classes. They're springing up everywhere like wildfire. So there are plenty of sources now to be able to learn this on an individual basis, as well as my mantra is you want to learn it, create it. So, play around with the technology yourself, go through some of the tutorials, create something, make something, and that is definitely going to take a huge amount of the pressure, of the fear of everything that you're hearing all around off of you, because, you've made it, you played with it. So there's tons of great tutorials and And as he mentioned, Solidity is not, if you're going to get into Ethereum anyway, Solidity is not a very difficult language to learn. They have some really great smart contract, what do you call it? Not just templates. They have like ones that actually walk you through making a contract. So they'll kind of explain, generators and stuff like that. They'll explain certain things. I put my kids on that one too. So, there's a lot of great things out there. So that's the wonderful thing about it, that it's the information is there for you to learn, and you don't have to pick up a book that's like 1,000 pages anymore. So, because the time that we're in. So, but I definitely suggest you get in with the meetups and join groups on social media. Facebook has about 1,000+ crypto groups. And maybe you don't want to fall in line with a group that is pushing a particular agenda, which you'll be able to see, but join some of the newbie groups, anything you want to see with newbie. That's where you want to, so because they're not afraid to ask questions, and there are people who will answer your questions. So this is really a great time for you to be able to learn. And as far as the investing side of it, I personally, personally what I do is I connect with causes and things that speak to me and what I'm about and what I can really identify with. Don't go jumping onto something that you just, you don't identify with because someone said, this is a great coin to power an airplane somewhere, or this and that, and you have no idea. But there are like tons of things out there that may be attached to something that you can definitely connect with, or a cause. Because that's just going to spawn you to learn more. You're going to know more, and you're going to be able to, because I kind of see the whole cryptocurrency movement moving around these little microeconomic, social, things. So that's where it's going to go. So, just find where you fit in and, and get involved,
Great, thank you. So to summarize, I hope you have a better understanding of blockchain now. It's kind of a really distributed, immutable data value, whether that's currency or whether that's something else, like community-based. I want to transition to audience Q&A now. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It's been super interesting. Two questions. Number one is to clear up some confusion around energy consumption. Is that a blockchain issue or is that a cryptocurrency issue? That's number one. Hold on. And the second one is, as a designer, where are the immediate opportunities in the next 1 to 3 years in the UX UI field as it relates to blockchain?
All right, I'll take number one. I'm actually the CTO of a mining operation out of Vancouver. And in my next round of conference speaking, Anarchapulco and Polycon and Porto Crypto are based around proof of work and the fight for clean, free energy. So a lot of times right now you talk about what proof of work is doing, how expensive it is and taxing it is. Uses a lot of energy. Uses right now more than the country of Norway. You hear just those are the things we just hear. But I'll tell you right now, we are fighting for ethical sources, which she mentioned earlier about being able to kind of vote with your money and where your passions are going. We have the opportunity to do that now more than ever. So when we look at low kilowatt hour power, low megawatt power, a lot of it's where we're sourcing from. And a lot of these are coming from newer sources of energy, hydro dams, and better power, betterly monitored, better capacity energies, better solar power, more efficiency. So these are the things that are going to get throttled. We didn't have a technology that was going to push so hard. Now we do. There's going to be other proofs that come out, but Bitcoin, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm friends with Austin Hill and Adam and the guys, we're not moving from proof of work anytime soon. It's very secure. So if that is the race for free, clean energy, bring it on. And that'll be something that the whole world, we can have these decentralized grid that we can bring power and better power to remote places of the world. We can bring newer power. Our grid right here in America is crumbling, and we don't need to be giving the central authorities power again to build this up and control it and have their their run at it again. We can create these other sources and we can create these decentralized areas to create better and more efficient power. And I will let somebody else answer the UX UI.
I mean, I think it's like any online business. Specifically, if you're looking at any kind of crypto technology that's token based, then look into existing token systems, which are generally games right now. So if you're looking to figure out how to create interfaces and user experiences that are making people adopt certain behaviors because of some kind of a token system, look at how games are currently operating and kind of learn that. In terms of how to find them, that's relatively simple. I mean, you have that you would need to go to the ICO kind of world in terms of finding those kind of projects, and you have many sites to do that. There's a simple site I like to go to called ICOalert.com. Just lists them out by date and a link to the website. So I think, and then you can just contact them. A lot of these entrepreneurs are generally small teams. Most of them are small teams. So if you're a designer and you come in and you say, hey, I have some ideas, I love your token system, I think I can help you build a product that's going to be habit loop generating, so people use it and want to continue using it just because of how it looks and how I can position it, then just contact them. And then generally it's a very easy kind of demographic to communicate with. They all want to collaborate. So.
I wanted to say in particular about scalability as far as power consumption. Ethereum is going to be launching a hybrid system that should that's working towards reducing that power consumption, because that is a problem. It's a huge problem. And people always coming up to me asking me about mining, and I'm not really a big, fan of mining. I'm just not a fan of the power consumption part of, that. I'm not a big fan of that. So when people come to me and ask me about mining, I kind of cringe. But they are working towards, of course, making that more efficient. And maybe will push us to maybe that's what's needed to push us to using cleaner sources of energy. Maybe that's the big ticket that's sitting there. So, I don't totally discount it. And as far as UI UX, because I do kind of come from UI UX as well, I think you really need to push towards the financial systems, because we're essentially going to be walking around with banks in our pockets. You understand? And right now it's very cumbersome because of nobody's really dealing and solving for that problem. Even when you're dealing with exchanges, it's horrible, for the average person. So if you're thinking about just the average person, the average citizen that's not a stockbroker or not a financial, and this is the problem that I'm dealing with. We send people to exchanges, et cetera, and tell them to go check out an exchange, and they're like, what the heck is this? So but they need to be able to also participate in these things. So there's going to be a huge need in making that more simplistic. And even the banking system hasn't fully solved for making the user experience of using mobile banking, super great. So, you kind of have an edge there.
Hi, I'm curious about the privacy and anonymity of specific currencies or just the technology of blockchain. So who can actually view these transactions, and what can they actually see whenever they're viewing them?
Well, I'm sorry, as far as the privacy and anonymity, you're watching addresses. So I guess that's why they say anonymity. You're not watching names attached to anything. You're only watching these addresses on the blockchain. But of course, as we're moving forward, and we need to find better ways of connecting these, like you said, to be able to reverse transactions, et cetera, there's going to have to give up some level of anonymity in order to be able to make that a case. I read an article recently, what is more important to you, privacy, security, anonymity, and there's going to have to be some type of giving up something in order to be able to get better services, especially when it comes to cryptocurrency.
It does. So I mean, most coins are pseudo-anonymous. So you see the address, you see what it did, but you don't know who's behind them. In some cases, they're completely anonymous. So you just know a valid transaction was done. You don't really know what happened there. I think that question of anonymity goes back to really your comfort level and what you're trying to do with it. So if you're going to an e-commerce site and you're buying a product and it's an anonymous transaction, but the website sends you a package to your house, well, what kind of anonymity layer are you really talking about? If you open Venmo right now, you're going to see a bunch of people all over the world transferring money between each other and for whatever. And that's also a certain level of anonymity that people don't care about, right? So it definitely enables it, and it enables it to the extent that you're not going to identify with it, right? You're not going to say on your Facebook, hey, this is my address, although it's very easy to just spin up a new one. I personally think it's a feature and that nothing more.
Yeah, security. It's my favorite subject. So yeah, we've been, the anonymity is really on the common network is really not there, right? So yeah, the FBI without doubt can track down who's doing what type of transactions on the block back to Bitcoin. If you're commonly working on the dark net, this is something that they can go after you for. They will be able to continue to track down that. There are better services now that are actually using block explorers to understand who people are. Again, pseudo-anonymous is all it is. Don't consider anything you do on Bitcoin anonymous. It's not happening. I had a conversation recently with the head of financial currency department for the FBI. The things that they don't understand right now, like zero knowledge proof works, right? So Zcash, Monero, they don't. But there was an article yesterday released about the NSA and the potential problems that the potential underpinning and exposure that they have right now for the Tor network for these other things that we thought we were secure under, right? So we'll see. There's a reason to use Monero and Zcash. I think it's good, but just don't do any things that are really illegal. I mean, you can do things that are subversive. Do them, but
people use US dollars right now for illegal.
Oh yeah, the number one tool used in crime across the world is the US dollar. So that when people talk about, Bitcoin is only you're used by criminals. No, your US dollar is used in more crimes than by far. So don't let that be an argument. But just don't do illegal things.
Yeah, first of all, thank you guys for coming out and telling us all about this. My name is Kyler Emig. I'm a UX designer, and I'm actually currently working on a blockchain application. So the problem that I have actually is, as a designer, how do I find more developers to help me build this vision?
Okay, yeah, you and everyone else, bro. Right, so this is the funny part. Friends of mine have this new academy coming out. I think it's academytoken.com. John Souza. But it's great. You see these trends every so often, right? Right now, the terms that he's using, he's talking about there are 14 jobs to every one blockchain developer, and I wouldn't even call them blockchain developers. 14 to 1 to Solidity, and that number is really more like 30 to 1, right? So this is the hottest topic. People are paying the most money. If you are talented at all in using JavaScript, you can jump over it and work on some Solidity. It's really not crazy. So you can start to execute, but we just need people to be more educated. It's not happening now. The people that could teach end up doing because they get paid a lot more. You can go to Udemy. Udemy has a number of good courses for now, and then Academy is starting to get better. But tell all of your friends that the jobs are in the blockchain, whether it be Solidity or EOS, or the other chains that are coming along. That's where the jobs are moving. We need more of them.
It's the same in 2008. The same question was, I have an idea for an app, and I'm looking for an app developer, right? So very few people knew how to do apps for iOS or Android. The good thing about blockchain, it's not nearly as difficult as creating apps. So most developers that are already active developers, especially if they're JavaScript, even just front-end developers, definitely if they're back-end developers, going through any kind of migration into something where they can start practicing blockchain technology, because it really, when we talk about blockchain developers, we're talking about back-end developers, right? We're not talking about front-end. Front-end is all the same thing. So getting a back-end developer to now write smart contracts, which is really just a stupid procedure, for the most part, it's not nearly as sophisticated as what a good developer writes every single day. It's pretty simple. So I think if you're like an entrepreneur and you're starting a company, then you're really asking for, I need a CTO, right? Particularly you're saying, I need a CTO that's willing to learn something new, which is the only kind of CTO you want anyway. So I think just find people who are great developers, and it seems like there's a bunch here, and just ask them, hey, are you willing to go through this? I think it'll take you a couple of weeks to start it, to do something, and take it from there.
And also, really when you're getting into any type of project like that, it's really about the management and really knowing what it is you need. Because if you need an entire blockchain, you may need a blockchain engineer, but if you need smart contracts, you may need a JavaScript. So you want to be, learn a little bit and be conscious about what it is that you're really looking for, and then you can put together the proper requirements, and it'll be quite easy to find who it is to get the work done, because it's really knowing what you need, because sometimes you don't need this person.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We're getting pulled off stage. We got to move on. We good.
Thank you.